There we go. Now you should be able to hear me. Hey everyone, my name is Ian. Welcome to the Part-Time Experience. This is the first live D20 Sundays, I think. At least, hopefully, this one is of decent quality. I'm still kind of getting adjusted to my new place. As you can tell, it is kind of brighter in this room than it was in my previous room that I used to record. And I have to be a little bit closer to the computer than I was in the past. But, you know, I'm still trying to get everything set up in kind of the way I want it, and it's going to take me a lot longer than I initially intended for that to happen due to money. Money is always a big thing, but, you know, no worries about that. No, I wanted to talk to you guys about a small little adventure that I ran. It was originally a one-shot, but it took about 2 sessions to do, and I called it the Kobold Adventurers Guild. The reason why it's called Kobolds Adventures Guild is because the players are essentially suggested, not required, that they choose either a kobold or a non-normal race for their character class. As such, the first session we had 2 kobolds and a half-orc. The second session we had the same 2 kobolds, but then we had a were-creature. I can't remember the exact race, but it's essentially they're like a werebear, werewolf, but they're in the Eberron's book, if I recall correctly. Nonetheless, you know, that's what we had for the groupings, and it was kind of unfortunate that I didn't get more players, but at the same time, I'm kind of happy I didn't get as many players as I normally do when I decide to run sessions, and it was just those 4 players. So, the adventure itself was nothing major. It was more of, you know, the players being dropped into a city that's currently being contested by 2 opposing forces in the middle of a civil war with an entire kingdom, and they're essentially going there to flip it into, you know, one army's favor by eliminating some key people and, you know, causing essentially as much property damage as possible to essentially weaken the fortifications. The players immediately, like, as soon as their feet hit the ground, you know, started trying to find one of their targets. And they succeeded in finding one, as well as information on the others, to where they knew where they would most likely be, as well as what they're, generally what they like to do, and what they normally fight like. As such, the players dealt with, I want to say, the first guy relatively quickly and easily. And it was when it came to dealing with the others that they had a little bit of trouble, but it was more due to over-planning versus, you know, execution of said plan. The adventure itself was rather fun, and it was kind of nice, again, to have, you know, players not playing the normal humdrum, oh, I'm an elf, I'm a dwarf, I'm a human. Here they are playing kobolds who are cowardly, conniving, and very willing to grovel for a moment if it means, you know, opening up for a spear or a crossbow bolt, you know, to strike their enemy. You know, something like that. But it also, while playing this one shot, I came to the idea that I should be happier that I had such a small group versus such a larger group that I normally get. I normally get about 5 to 9 players per group that I try and run, and I'm okay with that to an extent, but sometimes it's like, you know, hey, I've already got a full group of, you know, 5 players, but these players that want to join, I know them very well, and, you know, they want to join in on this campaign as well, and I know how they play great, so yeah, you know, come on in, and then the problem comes with what happens when you have too many players. You see, when you have too many players, you get this little problem of schedules. You know, most group schedules are always an issue. It's like, you know, what day do we want to play on? What day or where do we play on that day? And, oh, hello, R6 Chavez. Hello. And that's a constant issue when it comes to Dungeons & Dragons, and especially for the Dungeon Master, who's like, you know, I want to continue on the story. Please, for the love of God, someone choose a day and time and place for us to play before I rip my hair out. And the more players you have, the harder it is to get that essentially consistency as far as when we play, how often we play, and so on and so forth. But in smaller groups, you have to tailor things a bit differently because it's a smaller group versus a large group. So, I think I would suggest that for any Dungeon Master out there, keep it between 3 and 5 players. If you can do more, have at you. But like I said, I've constantly run into the issue of hey, I've got 9 players, and 4 of them want to run a game or do a game, but I can't get a hold of the other 5. What do we do? Okay, cool. We're just going to continue on with the story. Except for the story's written now for all 9 players. And it becomes a constant issue of, hey, I prepared this for the whole group. Why is the whole group not here? And I'm not playing the other 5 characters because that's their characters. I started in response to this, it's like, okay, we're missing a few players, so they're going off on, a side quest essentially, and you're going off on a side quest, that's sort of related to, but not fully related to, the overall arching storyline of the campaign that I have laid out for you. And it's worked most of the time. And I say most of the time because I've had a few times where it's like we're in the middle of the session and I'm running a game for, these 4 players that did show up, and then a 5th player shows up and he's like, oh, hey, I want to play too. And it's like, well, why didn't you answer the messages earlier asking hey, are you available? Are you going to make it today? So on and so forth. And honestly, gotta say, that's one of the biggest issues with having a large group, or actually any group in general. You might run into these issues if you don't have reliable players who consistently make it on time and consistently respond to messages as far as whether they're going to be able to make it on time. I haven't had this issue with another group of mine. They've been going on for a couple of years now. I want to say almost 3 years. But they're an online group of mine. That's the one with Edgar, Vordel, Varys, Andre, the half-orc, and Mamouche. They've all been very good and consistent throughout this all the games, and they've shown up and played just fine. But afterwards, I always wonder, it's are they going to be able to make it to the next session? And it's great because I have that thought only for a moment before it's reassured by, hey, we're going to make it to the next session. It's awesome, great. Edgar, one of the prime examples, I don't think he's missed 1 or 2 sessions, but that's been due to prior commitments. But for the most part, he's always been there, and if he can't make it, he normally lets us know a day or 2 ahead of time. It's hey, I'm not making it. And it's it's fine, it's great. At least you told us. Versus other players that I've had, it's where's Ben? Where has anyone seen Ben? And it's definitely an aggravating point of, I wanted to run a game today, but our healer's missing. And sure, you guys got healing potions. Boy, you're really gonna want a healer for this. Where's our healer? Well, I tried texting him an hour ago, and I haven't heard anything. So, one of the problems of being a dungeon master and running any kind of game is schedules. And like I said at the beginning, I find it's easier with smaller groups to get a schedule that aligns, especially with 3, 4, or 5 players, because it's cool. There's 6 of us in total, and I'm sure we can figure out some day in the week or some time in the week to where we can have a session. Versus, I've had games for up to 9 players. I get to have a game once every 2 months because life. And like I said, you're gonna have a life outside of the game. That's no problem whatsoever. I'm not gonna fault you for getting things done in life. But don't say hey, I'm gonna be here, and then like, oh, I can't make it to this session. Oh, can't make it to this session. Oh, can't make it to this session. Because eventually I'm gonna get aggravated with you. I'm gonna kill your character off. Just be like, all right, fine, whatever. You're not here. You're never here. I'm gonna kill your character off. And that actually happened in the end of the Kobold Adventurers Guild one shot. The guy who played the orc from the first session couldn't make it to the second session. I believe he was entertaining a lady's friend of some sort, and because of it, at the end of the adventure, the players were essentially given a choice. Either A, have a really hard fight and possibly succeed, or B, make a deal, and if they make the deal, they have to sacrifice one of the members of the party. I figured, they'll, reject the deal, they'll fight him, and so on. And then, the pretty much unofficial leader of the group is like, no, we're sacrificing. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. Who are you going to sacrifice? The orc, he's not here. His player's not here to object, so we sacrifice him instead. Okay, the guy shakes on it. So I think that'd be a lesson to you. Always show up, because the other players might, they find a way of like, screwing over your character or screwing you over because you didn't make it. They definitely will. And it's definitely one of those moments. And to me, it's one of those moments where it's like, well, that sucks for you. Yeah, I could have stopped it as the dungeon master, but it made sense to do it that way. Oh. But yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to cover for today's D20 Sundays, as far as, kind of a little bit of what happened with the Kobolds Adventurers Guild, the benefits of a large party versus a small party, and, making sure that if you are going to play in a campaign, that you're actually available to play in that campaign, that you have the time to put into it. Because it's not like, oh, we're just going to play for an hour. No one plays for an hour. People play for like 2 to 3 to 4, in one case 8 hours, and sometimes longer. I remember one day me and a friend did that, and we were exhausted. Whew. But yeah, pretty sure that covers everything as far as I wanted to talk about for this D20 Sundays. Thank you for joining me for this live D20 Sundays. As I said, this is the first one, and I'm still trying to get settled into my house, so... Oh. If only SOs realized that sometimes. If only R6 Chavez. If only. God. Actually, now that I think about it, the day that me and a friend played 8 hours of D&D, at the end of it, he realized his phone had died at some point, and he's like, oh god, my wife is going to kill me. So, jeez. I'm glad I didn't hear that argument, because I'm pretty sure it would not have been great. All I know is by the time I got home, it's like, I need shower in bed, and just ended up passing out on my floor. I think I grabbed a pillow off my bed, and I didn't even make it into my bed. I just like laid on the floor. What was I saying? But yeah, I'm still trying to get everything set up here. I could turn the camera around, but my room's kind of a mess still. I don't have an actual bed. I have a box and a mattress and stuff for the bed, but I don't have a frame. I've got one shelf, and a lot of my stuff is still in boxes, as far as like things that I had on the shelves, and yeah, unpacking a lot. But hey, moving forward, as I hope this year has been kind enough to you, as I know it's been rough for a lot of people, and I hope moving forward and into the next year that you're able to push forward and get things better in your life as well. Anyways, I'll catch you guys later. I plan on streaming again later on as soon as I figure out what I want to stream. So, laters.